people will make fun of me for saying it, but everyone in Sabah would agree on this. Like I swear by it. And believe it or not, when you come to Sabah, you must try KFC.
Whoa, that came out of nowhere.
Really, really.
Brought to you by Good Foodie Media. I'm Castle Lim, and you're listening to the Foodie Canteen podcast. Today, I'm so happy to welcome the last guest of this season, all the way from Sabah. Chiew is an entrepreneur and one of the pioneers who brought the brunch life into Sabah. Listen in. Hey Roy, welcome to the show.
Wow, I love the intro.
Entrepreneur, the brunch life, that's all you.
Man. So you're gonna have a live band there introducing your guests.
I'm waiting. I'm still waiting on that day. Roy, thank you so much for making time. You've been traveling right now. You're still traveling.
Nah.
Before we go into the questions, the serious topics. Like, tell us, how has your travels been so far to the United States?
I mean, it's amazing. It's very educational. I love to travel, and I always I'm not sure whether everyone has this thing where you observe something when you travel related to what you're doing, and I'm like that. You know, every restaurant I go, like my friends, my wife always critique me like, "Oh, you are always, just enjoy the moment. Don't look at like the kitchen's operation. Don't see like how many servers they have and like start analyzing their pricing on the menu." But that's me. I mean, I enjoy doing it, and that's what I do. And I love it. New York has changed. I've been to the States the last 4 weeks, and so much has changed. Like the last 4 years, I was telling a friend of mine. So the last time I was there, every time I have a good restaurant I went to, I'll put a star on the map, Google Map, right? And I'll always I'll record it, recommend it to friends that goes there. And this time I went back and I was like, oh, let's go back to some of these places, and half the places closed.
Oh, wow. Because of the lockdown, right?
Yeah.
Because of the pandemic.
It's all because of COVID.
Yeah. Wow.
Maybe. I think most likely it is. And it's been tough. It's been tough for the industry in general. So I kind of understand, I feel for them. But at the same time, you have so many new brands that are coming up, so many new concepts. And definitely I can see industry growth in the States. And they've gone a long way. Definitely they've gone a long way. So it's been fun, definitely. Yeah.
So good. I see your trips and like the food that you post on Instagram. I'm definitely drooling. Let's come back to Malaysia here. For our listeners who are hearing about you for the first time, you are born and raised in Sabah. Can you kind of briefly share with us who you are and what you do?
I'm born in Sabah, a small town called Tawau. It's the most eastern, not the most, is a part of eastern Malaysia. I mean, everyone knows East Malaysia, but it's also the east part of Sabah, which is, I guess, if you're not an adventure person, it's the less happening part, because everything that's to do there is the sea, is scuba diving. There's another eastern city called Sandakan. That's more like food scene there. But Tawau is quite a basic city. It's a very small, intact community, kind of like the kind of town where everyone more or less knows everyone. Even if you don't know someone, you would know someone who knows someone, So it's one of those towns. So I grew up in that town for a better part of I think 17 years. And did my high school there, primary school there. But I'm not there anymore. I've moved to Kota Kinabalu since I graduated. And I've been in KK for, I think now 11 years. So I've been back since 2011. So time flies, 11 years. So that's basically where I'm from. What I do, I'll say business is part of family business in construction. So do consulting, construction, a bit of development here and there. Yeah, but otherwise, I run some restaurants in KK. So yeah, that's the more or less summarize me. I'm quite a simple person.
Simple person, but
Yeah.
like doing so many things. I asked these
No,
questions
no.
to all my guests this season. What are some local foods our listeners must try if they ever visit like Sabah, Tawau, KK? Something. Give us something.
Okay. I thought about this question a long time. And people will make fun of me for saying it, but everyone in Sabah would agree of this. Like I swear by it. And believe it or not, when you come to Sabah, you must try KFC.
Whoa, that came out of nowhere.
Really, really, really. I swear, like KFC in Sabah, we have the best KFC. If not in Malaysia, definitely it is definitely best in Malaysia. I've not been to all the KFC in the world, but for all the country I have tried KFC, definitely better than UK by miles. Okay, in general, Malaysia KFC is better than UK in general, right? But within Malaysia, definitely Sabah KFC is up there. And I'm not just saying I would say, but people in Sabah will know what I'm talking about. But you definitely have to try KFC. And the one in Tawau is particularly better.
Wait, so is it crispier or like the chicken
sentimental.
is bigger?
I think the chicken, because they source the chicken locally from Sabah, and I really think that we have better chickens. Like, I just simply think that our chickens are much happier, I guess. But it's definitely better quality in general than other KFCs. Yeah, so that's it. Other than that, if you're adventurous, you can try sago worms, which is not a thing. We don't go dinner and say, okay, I'll have a plate of worms, right? So that's not a thing. It's not a thing, right? It's just one of those things that some of the tribes have it, and it's a tourist kind of like activity. You can just like have a bite of worms. Our alcohol is good, so if you're into rice, liquor, rice wine, we have this thing called tapai, which is like in a clay pot, and you kind of like from a pot, and it's very unique. Usually, when people within the cultures, when people drink it, it's usually celebratory. It's a festival and all, and it takes months to make, and you only can, you need to order it, and it's made to your order. And so it's one of those times that and I love it. It's a really good alcoholic drink if you're into that. Yeah, I think besides that, we have the same local hawker food, but I think now hawker food is so strong. I mean, I'm in Singapore now, and grass is always greener, right? Singapore, Malaysia, and all that.
Yeah.
I love both. If you ask me which one's better, I say why compete? Both. I love them both. So hawker food, they are great everywhere. So if you do come, try it out as well. Yeah.
Yeah, this is some really great recommendations, and KFC really shocked me. But I guess if I'm in Sabah, I have to go for it.
You have to. Yeah. Get a bucket.
So you said you were in Tawau and then now you're in KK, but in between you went somewhere else. Can you share with us where did you go for school and how was that experience for you?
Right. Yeah, I did secondary school in Tawau, in like a private Chinese school. So if anyone knows me from high school, knows that I'm not the best student, right? I'm put into like the science class because of what kind of like my family direction. Like, okay, if you're not sure what you want to do, just make sure you're in science because the Chinese family, right? Because the logic, at least at that time, now I would think that I have reservation on that logic, but the logic at that time is that if you study science stream, whatever you want to do in arts, whether it's accounts, finance, it can sort of be done. It's not as difficult. I mean, that was a logic at the time. But the vice versa is a bit difficult. You know, if you study art stream and you want to be a doctor and all that, maybe it's a bit more difficult because the fundamentals may not be there. So, long story short, Chinese family. So they say, okay, if you're not sure, just go study science stream. And I really hated studying, right? So when I was in school, I mean, I was kind of fortunate enough that I don't have a lot of pressure from parents to perform, right? There's specific subjects they are more particular on. Language was one, so I need to do on my English, obviously, because we speak English at home, and they say, you know, Malay, okay, but you know, you need to have at least one strong language. So they are particular on that. Mathematics, regardless of whatever, you know, kind of career you choose, mathematics is kind of fun. So from very young, I kind of brought up to say, kind of like there are certain subjects that pay more attention. Other than that, just don't do too terribly. You know what I mean? And that kind of gave me a lot of freedom. So I definitely was not the best student, but I had a lot of free time. You know, my family, we don't have a lot of tuition. Like most of my life, I don't have like tuitions after tuitions. And a lot of my friends like school tuition, dinner tuition, you know what I mean? But not for me. And the tuitions that I do go to was my own choice. Like I would go there because of friends going there, you know, and things like that. I was like, oh, everyone's going to that tuition. So, you know, FOMO, right? And I just go to tuition because of socializing. So that kind of like my background in education, right? So when it comes to post high school, I think family-wise, they're more particular. They're like, okay, this is where education gets serious. And I was still messing around, right? So I really wanted to go to Australia. All my friends were there. Everyone I knew was there. All my, you know, close friends. And my dad was like, no, if you want to go to Australia, you can go, but you can pay for your own fees. Then I was like, I'm going to pay for my own fees in Australia. So that didn't work out. Yeah, so I went to UK, a boarding school in the UK. So I would say quite a strict-ish school in comparison to my life before boarding school, right? So, you know, when I'm in high school, I didn't have any like curfew per se. You know, I come back whatever time I want. I go out whatever time I want. And boarding school is like 10 p.m. They would check on your door and they come knocking and say, are you in a room? And you need to be alone. And lights off. You cannot even like be like mucking around on your phone or watching a movie. You know what I mean? So unless you're studying, right? Yeah. So that was quite a change for me in boarding school, which I think I kind of needed. So that 18 months put me in different circles of friends. Not to say I've done anything against like my high school friends. I mean, I'm still very close to them. I'm very close with all my friends that I've made. But it's a different lifestyle that is forced upon you, which I feel it was needed at that time. Yeah, so I spent 18 months in college, and then I did my degree and then masters in the UK as well. So I spent a good part of like 6 years in the UK.
What were you studying in uni?
Then I came back. Yeah. So I'm an engineer, civil and structural engineer. I studied civil engineering, but now we also do like structural work as well. So won't go into too much detail. But education, yes, I studied civil engineering, bachelor and masters. Kind of fall back into like the high school lifestyle in uni, you know, where I'm not really a education. I didn't get like first class honors and whatnot. Just get by lah. Good enough to graduate. Yeah. Kind of. So a naughty kid at heart lah. A naughty kid at heart. Yeah. So yeah, that was my education in general. Yeah.
University is truly like the best time. You know, you can just enjoy, make friends, have professors like watch over you, so you kind of have a target to like, oh, I must
Yeah.
score on this exam or at least pass. But at the same time, you can socialize
Yeah.
and not really have real responsibilities.
Yeah, I agree. Like uni was one of the highlight of my life. Like it's definitely explore a lot. I mean, I'm glad it happened the way it did. Like if I look back now it's like 12 years past uni, right? If I'm like I mean, nothing against my friends who like really did well in uni. They are doing a good job. Like,
Yeah.
but if I had to relive uni, I'll probably do exactly the same thing. I mean, I'm not like mucking around or anything. I'm just like enjoying the time there and doing what I love best, which is making friends, socializing. I know friends in like every other city in the UK. And I like making friends in different university. Yeah, so I had a plus, definitely. Yeah.
So prior to going into F&B industry, what were you doing? What was your first job out of uni?
Hmm. Um. I okay. Well, my first job, I came back to work for the family, right? Not by choice. Actually, I wanted to work in Singapore, where I'm at now, and I didn't want to be in construction. I wanted to be in banking. At that time, that was a cool job, and uh, as an engineer at that time, there was a lot of banks looking for engineers for whatever reason, maybe like more, I don't know, risk managed kind of people. Um, yeah, so I wanted to go into banking. There were a lot of banks that were looking out, and I have an uncle here in Singapore who actually wanted to let me to that opportunity. Hey, you want to work for a bank? I'll have a word for you and hook you up. Uh, but then my dad kind of came in and said, okay, this is a very serious decision, right? Because if you go into banking, it's unlikely like a few years later you're going to come back and be an engineer or not. It's just like, it just doesn't work that way, right? So, and there's the idea of security and there's the idea of like um, where the family's at and the, I guess, knowing like my family's kind of like how the parenting right, the parenting style is that I know that um it's the same. It's not gonna be I come back and like I'm like in boarding school again, because it's never the case, right? When I was back home, there's a lot of freedom for me to explore, and I know if I come back, there's a better chance of me like exploring other things to do besides engineering in back home, rather than if I'm in banking in Singapore or whatnot, or in the UK. Probably that wouldn't have happened. Like probably it would be like a very corporate race,
That's right. Yeah.
and it'll be a very different outcome. Yeah. So yeah, so that's how I got to where I'm at. Yeah.
So you kind of weigh out your options and see what works best for your personality as well, I guess.
Yeah. So yeah, you weighing up the option, yes. And what I was saying is that knowing in hindsight, right, knowing what has happened the last 12 years, um, and putting myself back in that shoe again, as a 23 years old, it will still be a difficult decision knowing what has happened already. And the reason is because I was mentioning I have quite an unhealthy level of confidence, right? So I guess like even if I did choose banking, I have that sense of confidence to say, I think I could make it happen. Like in banking, I think I have what it takes to make it reasonably well in banking. So although a lot have happened, yes, 10 years, but a lot could have happened in banking. So I think it's just one of those decisions you just live with it and don't look back and just go down the journey. And believe it or not, where I'm at today, as part of like the overall like company and family portfolio, I'm I'm kind of in that position as well. So I'm looking at investment opportunity, managing funds for the company, for the family. So kind of like not in banking, but it's that part of investment banking and investment, and looking at other companies and all that kind of thing. Yeah, so it kind of comes around. Yeah, it comes around.
So how many years were you helping out with the family business before you decided to venture out and start your own F&B restaurants?
I'm still,
Yeah, right.
I'm still, yeah. I would say that maybe 60% of my time to maybe 60 to 70% of my time is still in construction, actually.
Right.
So that is more family, and technically F&B is also family. Like my main partner, my main shareholder partner is my brother, right? So but he doesn't. I mean, he's a financial partner. Like he give me good advice now and then when I need it. But he's not involved in operation. But it's not what I needed. It's what someone that gives me good advice the time when I need it, and not kind of like be like to. You get confusing, when too many people are involved,
that's right.
especially in the family context. Yeah.
Tell us about the trip you took to London when you took a break with the family and this ideas came about.
Okay, I would say that I wasn't always like a inverted comma foodie. Like, this word is very loosely used now, right? So I wouldn't classify myself as like inverted commas foodie since young. Even until uni, like in uni, I won't like go around the UK looking for like treasure hunt for like whatever food and all that. And going out with friends is very simple. You like it, you don't like it. It's good or it's not good. That's it. It's very simple, kind of like critique and comments on the place, right? And I would say that really changed maybe in 2012 after I graduate. I went to Australia, not for the first time, like for the first time in adulthood. I've been in Australia when I was like kids, right? So for the first time in adulthood, I was there for a conference, and that really completely enlightened me in terms of curry food, drinks, and it was quite a like mind blown kind of situation. Like, I never knew like coffee could taste the way it did, and cocktails could be made the way it did. I had cocktails in the UK, right? But they are cocktails and they are cocktails, right? So it really intrigued me, like how like Australians, they're so progressive and they're so casual about it. They're not obnoxious about it. Like they're not like snobbish about their food, right? It's just so casual for them. It's like everyday food. Every other cafe or restaurant is trying their best to do what they do, and there's so much pride, quite a lot of pride in what they were doing, and that was when I would say was the light switch, that not to say get into the business, but to really appreciate food at a different angle, I say. So that was really interesting. Really enjoyed my time, and the funny thing is, that year I was traveling quite a bit because I was young in the business, 1 year in, right? And I don't have too many responsibilities per se. I was just like another staff. I went in there like a fresh grad, work like anyone else, take leave like anyone else. I'm not like a project in charge, or I'm just like anyone else. So I start out from zero. So because of that, the responsibility for me was not as large comparatively now, and it allowed me to take some time off. So after Australia, I went to Africa, right, for a mission trip, and that really also, I mean, that year was life changing for me. Like, I'm looking at from Australia to like Africa, because it's mission trip. I see quite a bit of like the different side of the world. Where I mean, it's very different, but yet, for the joyful moments I see in the community in Africa, right? This is South Africa, in Johannesburg and some of the outskirts. And something that really struck me, and I know is you hear it a lot, but you don't really understand how much it means until you see it for yourself. And it's that, when people say food bring people together, right? It cannot be better illustrated in any other culture than the African culture. Like how in a very basic or unfortunate or poor kind of a situation, um that when there's food, right, you can see that, people kind of like put whatever sorrows they're going through, whatever hardship, and they just enjoy the moment when there's food. And all the deep memory I had of my trips are all around evolving around food. Not to say that nothing specific on the food, but it's the situation of communal eating, right? That kind of like bring a very um, connected kind of relationship with the person you're eating. So that's why when people say that, if you're having an argument, for example, with a friend and all that kind of thing, or with anyone, a family member, and you're at the dining table, so the obvious thing that the repercussion is that I lost my appetite. So the idea of like eating together in a communal manner, it really cannot. The emotion side, right? It cannot be. It cannot be detached. Like it's always a positive emotion, right? So that whole year was very eye-opening for me. I'm observing like cultures, food, the technical side of it, and moving on. Your question on London, that was the year after, I think. We decided like, okay, we want deep, and I mean, I fell in love with coffee. And that's when, when I was in London for a family vacation, me and my brother, we took a coffee course to learn how to make coffee. At that time, not really with the intention to open a cafe. It's kind of like, because like, I kind of like the enlightened, right? So called. And since then, we take our meals more seriously. Every time we family going out vacation, we plan a meal. We like, okay, let's make this meal count. Let's see where we want to go. That type of thing. Now very common to everyone else. And yeah, so that was a time where, me and my brother was like, okay, we have a long vacation. Let's just learn to make some coffee. And that was how it started. Yeah.
So, for each business, I know that you have 5 under you. That's Adelphi, Pound, Jojo, Gastro Bar, The Fat Pet, and Pizza Bros. 2 of them are cloud kitchen.
It's complicated.
Hey.
It's complicated, yeah.
Wait, my question is,
Yeah.
you have
2 of
different
them are
business
cloud
partners
kitchen.
for all these restaurants.
Not all 5. Okay, so Adelphi is undergoing a rebranding. I think I mentioned to you. There's a name ready. We settled on, but I won't mention it. It's still refining. Yeah, still refining. But Adelphi, I quite which is our very first store, right? Adelphi is our first 2015. It's undergo a rebranding process, and it's always been like very dear and very it's structured to us. Like it's the kind of store that we do whatever we want, right? And we have the opportunity to be a bit more experimental. And so that's Adelphi. We have Pound, which we have, as you mentioned, we have other partners there. We are like the operator for the outlet. Means we plan the brand, we run the restaurant. And as you mentioned, we have Jojo, the one that just opened. Yeah, and the other 2 are club brands. So currently 5. And we have a few more in the pipeline. But it's been keeping us busy, definitely. Yeah.
And what's your role in these businesses?
That's a good question. I think you see, we from day one, right? We've really been trying to build a team. I had a vision. My vision for the business, right? In from the start, is quite a long-term vision, and that's the idea of visions, right? If a vision is achievable by a specific time, I wouldn't say that's a vision. It's kind of like progressively, you kind of always achieving that vision, even in 100 years. Say the business lasts 100 years, right? Yeah. So we had a vision for the brand from the start, right? And we knew we needed a team. Me and my operational partner, and I think until today, I would say that my role is really, F&B is really not a food business. I always tell people F&B is really a people business. If you understand people, you can do well in the food company, in the food business, in hospitality in general, right? Hospitality in general. So when I say what I mean by people business, meaning that, it's about understanding your customer. They are people. It's about understanding your partners. They are people. It's about understanding your team members, your servers, your waiter. They are people, right? It's about understanding your financial partners or your shareholders. They are people. So I would think that, well, if you take a step back, I guess all business are people business, right? But especially in F&B, there's a lot of them, right? It's not like there's some companies like, I'm not in the tech world, but I guess like some tech companies, they can run a really big company with like 12% or 20%, small people. So you're managing lesser people. For us, we have a group of like 100 staff in our company, right? There's so many people to manage, and all our customer and all this. So I guess my role is really to really kind of like build a team that shares the same value of the company. And maybe in a nutshell, I would say that my role is to build or to curate more leaders. I think that would be in my nutshell. I guess that I would say that would be my role.
Let's talk a bit more about Adelphi. That's your first restaurant, and you guys decided to close it down permanently this year, rebranding, going through the rebranding process. Bring us back to the beginning, because I know that the name, how it came up with the name, was a very interesting process and what it meant.
Yes.
Share with us a bit.
So it's a good transition actually. Adelphi, what's the name that we thought of in 2014? I think it was a winter in 2014. There was a separate trip again to the UK with my family. And at that time, December 2014, we really, it was at that point where we knew that there's a F&B project that we want to venture into, right? So we were thinking about, it was very early on, we were thinking about names, we were thinking about structure, we were thinking about how we want to do it. And it was very preliminary kind of idea, it's not very concrete kind of idea. So we were like tossing about names. And we were in this, I'll say, I think it's a French restaurant or something. Somewhere, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Trafalgar Square. And in this upper floor of like a French bistro, right? And we're thinking about names, and we shortlisted many. We have like 20 names, right? So we're trying to convince each other, like, why we should go for, why we should go there. Nothing quite stick. Then we look out the window, quite cliche, I guess. Look out the window, and we saw the Adelphi Theatre, which is a musical theatre in London, right? It was like Adelphi, like what? Quite a funny sounding name, like Adelphi, right? It's not a word that you hear frequently, right? And it's quite Adelphi. Then the more we say it, like it doesn't quite roll out the tongue at first, but the more we say it, like the more we kind of it sticks to us. And when we dig deeper into the meaning behind it, it was quite profound. It's the Greek meaning of brothers, and this project is basically me and my brother, mostly starting this together, and uh, and the original meaning of Adelphi in Greek, right? It's not just like blood brothers, right? It's like how colloquially now we use like bro, like everyone's a bro, right? Anyone who's a guy has a bro, like and in that time, so ancient Greek per se, they already have that term. Like this is what they call like a bro. Like it's not like it can be used for blood brothers, but it's also the sense of brotherhood. It's a sense of brotherhood and that relationship of brotherhood. And I think that was quite profound. That hey, this is quite profound. First of all, we are blood brothers, and we wanted this brand to have that sense in the community where we are, that level of relationship within the community as like, hey, bros. These are like, the community is like my bros are kind of like that. So that's how we came with the name Adelphi. Yeah.
So you guys were the first, second branch spot in Sabah, am I right?
No, I wouldn't dare say that. I'm sure there were a few.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there were a few, but not many lah. I'll say not many, and definitely, as I shared, like my initial inspiration from is quite branchy, and that's why we started off. We started off wanting to be like. Actually, it started off very simple. Like this is a funny story. Yeah. So it started off actually. We just want me and my brother, we love coffee, right? We want to get a coffee machine. I mean, for work, right? For company. Didn't know much about it. Found out that okay, this thing's gonna cost like a good part of like 100,000. Like a proper like manual machine plus. And all that now, right? And to set up the counters and things like that. And obviously it's no go like why you buy 100,000 machine set up for the office, which probably only 2 persons gonna drink, and everyone else is happy, with 3-in-1, right? So that conversation kind of evolved into okay, let's start off something, like a business, like a cafeteria, coffee place, cafe. Okay, maybe a bit of pastry. As we discussed, it get evolved more. So you okay, let's from pastry, let's do this brunch thing. So we started off more or less with that footing. Like at the time, I don't have a number, but I'll say maybe 5 or less kind of like brunch places in KK. Probably less than 5, yeah. So but we because of the partner I had, Jimmy, his background is in kind of like fine culinary. He studied in the UK. Knew my brother first before I knew him actually. And he came into the picture late, right? He came into the picture towards the end of us starting executing the project. So when he came in and knowing that what he could do, we wanted to say, okay, let's do it different. Like let's do it properly. You know what I mean? Let's really bring something different to KK, and let's not just look around and see what's everyone doing. And we start from scratch. We did the menu, and we kind of like bring new techniques and new elements of brunch into the outlet. Where it's in view of it, hoping that you'll progress the industry. And I believe we did. I believe we definitely set out to achieve. We achieved what we set out to accomplish. Yeah, and it's been a very fast 7 years for Adelphi. And we took. I like to think that we took a lot of risks for the industry. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, it's an industry game.
What
If
kind
you
of what kind of risks
follower of
are
like
you talking about? Like food or like people's perception? Like, or you're scared if you do this, people won't be able to receive it as well as a brunch spot?
yeah, yes, yeah, because it's very easy for people to judge the community they're in, especially when you're part of it. So when I ask friends around or people who are in KK, right? And I share them my idea, and I was like, are you sure KK is ready for this? Like, maybe KK not ready for this.
So
And
it's not ready
it's
for
so
what?
easy,
Like a fine dining technique in the cafe scene?
kind of like we introduced like not I won't say I'm not sure whether we did, but probably one of the early that use it like sous vide method. So a lot of like technical now is everywhere lah. Now you go to every cafe, everyone has a sous vide coffee machine, whatever.
Yeah.
But like back in 2014, definitely in KK, no one was like, what's a sous vide egg? Like, not many people know what even a sous vide egg was, right? Is right. And we kind of bring that in. So it's part of and sous vide chicken, right? And we did like sous vide chicken dishes, and we have people that, are you sure or not? KK people need to be very cooked one, when inside, got the thing, they complain, all this. So it was a difficult, but it is what it is. Adelphi is is a playground for us. We do what we feel like doing, and in view that this is the progression of the industry, as we know it, and we just wanted to like take that risk and say, okay, if nobody does do it, we're going to do it, and take that opportunity to educate, I guess, the community, and also, yeah, because even financially, it's a lot of risk because these things are not. I mean, now probably cheaper, but at that time, some of these equipments are really expensive. And a lot of people say, oh, you can't get your money back, and for what you need to charge, probably people are not willing to pay, because how the financial works is that, you have certain investment put in, obviously the price point will reflect, certain techniques, certain equipment that you use. And everyone was charging like, I would say less than 20 ringgit brunch meals. And obviously I was a bit higher, but it's not so much the price point and positioning. I think it's really Adelphi in a nutshell is really a space for us to really bring the industry forward. And I think we definitely achieved that. Yeah. Well, at least I like to think we have achieved that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what I hear from you is that there were a lot of people who said, you can do it. People won't be able to accept this, but yet you guys pushed through, right? And in the end, would you call this a success?
I won't say that bothered me a lot. Actually, from the very start, I mean, we do consult friends. Don't get me wrong, but we somehow were very convinced what we wanted to do, and so that was very not part of the influence that causes to think twice or whatever. But the risk was there, lah. Definitely, the risk was there. So, not this like mindset of philosophy is what I think we kind of also have until today, and I think it's to some extent quite a healthy mindset, and I think it's fortunate that we also are able to financially back that mindset. And this mindset is this. When we start the project, and this applies for anyone in business. People are listening. If you're not in FMB, I guess this could apply to you. And we talk about this being a human business, people business. It's about people that's around you, right? Yes, you might start a project or business without too much certainty on the business, right? Maybe you're taking a bit of risk, and maybe that risk is weighted off to a more of a riskier side, right? And out of my personal mindset is that, okay, I'm willing to take that risk, not because of money, right? Not because I'm a risk taker. Obviously not. I'm an engineer, right? I'm really scared of I'm really scared of high risk item, right? I risk factor everything, right? But simply because I know that the people I'm with, we have what it takes to improve it along the way, to change it up. First of all, I'm confident our team, we know what it takes to first be aware and of the issue. If the business is facing an issue, we need to be, to kind of humble ourselves and say, hey, look, this was a wrong move. We got to fix this, right? And so that's the first step. You need to acknowledge that this is a miscalculated move, knowing that the risk, but we took the risk, but now, okay, it's a miscalculated move. But the second part is more important, is that I know that the team we have what it takes to fix the problem. And that is what drives certain confidence within. So the team is very important. The idea is not very important. The actual execution, like sometimes, even up to today, we talk about menu items as we change the menu, right? People are like, this one cannot sell. It's okay. Menu is just an item in the menu, right? Just take the risk. To even bigger risk items like renovation. Like when we do a renovation, like, okay, this maybe not creating the vibe we want. But I know that we have what it takes to acknowledge that, okay, the vibe is misaligned. And we also, kind of like can calibrate that. I think it's a very healthy mindset. Obviously, there's a lot of factors of people, of financial, but it's important that you are aware of the risk that you're taking. The worst is that you're confident of a decision, not knowing the risk, and the so-called failure takes you by surprise. Then you're not prepared for it, right? But if you know the risk and you're taking it, and if it fails, it's okay because you calculate the risk and you know that there's a high probability that it's going to fail. But it's a collaborative decision to take that risk. And if it fails, nobody gets blamed. Like you say, okay, it's fine. We decide this together. It fell. Our bad, right? We miscalculated as a team, and now let's fix that. So I think this is what keeps us going and keep us strong as a team. I like to think, yeah.
All right, that's some really solid statement right here. I love it. How do you know that it's time to close a chapter for Adelphi? And I think
Okay,
this applies for
that's a
any
good
other
question.
business.
Yeah. Okay. Before we talk about that, actually, there's a lot of things. There's one project a lot of people don't know. Like we have a failed case before, and this restaurant we opened in 2018, quite recent, yeah, 2018, and we opened this cafe, and the concept behind it was something like Chatterbox. I'm not sure if you've been to Singapore Chatterbox. It's basically the atas hawker food lah, right? So we're trying to elevate like bak kut teh and chicken rice and nasi lemak. Not like Madam Guan, right? Not like 30 ringgit or 30 ringgit, but like slightly nicer in the office area, CBD. I think we're selling about 20 ringgit or something like that, thereabout. And long story short, it was a flop. It was a flop. Not the product. I think the product, I still miss the product today. And a lot of friends telling me that they miss the product. Product was good, but somehow it was a miscalculated business. The business itself was miscalculated. Like we had a full house for lunch, right? We had everyone coming in for lunch. People had to queue, but the numbers were not adding up to cover certain of the rent, the cost, and all that kind of thing.
So you're saying that you're not charging enough to cover the cost, even though it was packed.
I won't say we're not charging enough. No, I won't say we're not charging enough. I think we didn't have enough. We didn't have a concept that people would want to go to throughout the day, if that makes any sense. So we, as a business, with that kind of overhead, right? We couldn't have like a peak lunch and that's it. We need a crowd pre-work hours, like for breakfast, they come in up before work, and we need like post and tea time, people to come in to tea and to drink whatever. And we need a dinner crowd. And because the space was not that big, right? And we only had that lunch crowd. So for the rest of the day, it's completely empty. So and there was a few other factors. Our processes were very long. Like some of this good hawker food around Malaysia or Singapore, they're very specialized to chicken rice. It's chicken rice. But if you start to do too many items, your processes become, your team becomes very big, and you shorten the process, and you might suffer a little bit on quality and people. Anyways, it was a flop, and we closed it within 9 months, and it was a painful lesson. I think we learned a lot from that exercise, and it was one of that humble pure. What I said like 5 minutes earlier, of knowing my team that can collaborate to save salvage back. And that was when I found out that actually not everything can be salvaged post journey, right? And these are things that I kind of like understood and learned that, okay, these are things that no matter how good your team is the fundamental concept of the business is flawed. And if the fundamental concept of the business is flawed, if you want to salvage it, it's more or less like reinvesting, more or less like a new business. You're starting over, right? Means you go into some form of renovation, new equipment, new process of food and all that. So we knew that from like 3-4 months in. Tried a few ways to salvage, couldn't salvage, and we pulled the plug. Look, lesson learned, pull the plug, and yeah, we learned a lot from that. But Adelphi is slightly different. Adelphi closed, in fact, on a very high note. Like Adelphi, when we closed, on the final month of closing, we hit the highest we have hit the last 7 years. Like, we were doing very well. I was quite happy with financially of what we were doing. But as we reflect back, Adelphi has never been about that. Adelphi has always been progressing the industry, as I mentioned earlier. And I think Adelphi kind of have reached that limit of being able to progress the industry. And if I look into one other limitation, and it kind of evolved around the space that we had. It was designed quite. It's quite limited to the things we can change, and if obviously we could do nothing, and we'd be fine. Financially we're okay, and I was quite happy actually. But the intention and the essence of Adelphi is not. It's not fulfilling its original intention. And I feel like that was something that was important to me beyond financial. So I talked to the team and said, look, it's 7 years in, it's full circle. As far as I'm concerned, I mean, those people who are Christians will understand. Like seven is a very important number in Christianity, definitely in some religion as well. And I feel like it's come full circle. And I wanted, this new brand to kind of like come back to its original intention to progress the industry. So we had a meeting and said, look, Adelphi needs to know what it is. And if we don't, converge now, if we don't change this now, if we don't end so-called end Adelphi in a high note, when else do you end it, right? You mean you end it when it's low, like you end it you end it as when you're back at the bottom, or what? So the way it was narrated and the way that I look at it, I think everyone was on board. I think everyone was behind the decision, and we ended on a high note. I'm very happy how the chapter has closed. We have an exciting new project coming in for the space. It's the same people behind it, right? But it's a new tools. It's a new platform for expression. Of what we were supposed to do in the first place. Yeah.
That's so beautifully said. I also think because you can do this because you have a vision already in the beginning when you start the business. It's not like, okay, let's just see how it goes, let's just flow with it. But you know what you want, you set an intention. And when you have arrived, you know what? Let's go, team, let's create Adelphi 2.0. And I think, wow, that's very, very impressive. Let's talk a bit about the food culture, the food scene in Sabah. What is it like, and any thoughts on it?
Okay, I think from the business point of view, I mean, as you know, I like to travel. I travel a bit, and I still feel Sabah has the hardest climate for business, especially in hospitality. It's really like we really got the short end of the stick in the whole geographical and economic situation, right? So I'll break it down briefly, right? Like everything we can get in Sabah comes through some gigs. You come through KL, Singapore, whatnot. So everything you get is in KL. We get it more expensive, but easy like 20-30%. Rent is catching up. So people say, oh yeah, your English is more expensive, but your rent is cheap. Not really. Like rent is catching up as well. If you check it out, property prices in Sabah, or in KK specifically, not Sabah, in KK specifically, is as high as KL. As high, you know what I mean? And in certain areas, I would dare to say in general, maybe even higher. Like if you have a budget of like say I'm in property, so if you have a budget of like $500,000 to buy a property, it's quite a lot of good decent choices for you to get in Klang Valley, right? $500,000 you go to KK, probably two handful of projects for you to choose from, or like not either they are very small units, not the best location, etc. But it is what it is. You know, construction is the same. Material is. I won't go into it, but in general, everything is quite high cost wise in Sabah. But the cost is not the issue. We also have less people with disposable income. You know what I mean? We have very wealthy people, yes. People always like say, oh, Sarawak, you have a lot of wealthy people. Yes. The top, whatever percentage is like they are ridiculously wealthy, right? But that's not where the business is at, right? You're talking about your F&B, you're not just doing to feed like the 50 families or whatever who are the top people, right? And the general people, they just don't have that type of disposable income to kind of like have a certain lifestyle or to enjoy. So it's difficult, very, very, very difficult to do business in Sabah. But as a cultural point of view, food culture point of view, I think it's very interesting. I think I think there's a longing. I think because of the deterrent of businesses to come in, right? A lot of franchises or even F&B players in KL, even they want to come to Sabah. Once they hear some of this hurdle, they decided not to, right? But because of this, regression of the food scene, there's that longing, for something different. So when it does happen and it hits the mark, right, and its price point, is the concept, it would do well. People are very welcoming for new concepts in Sabah. So it really drives you to innovate, how to make your operation slim, how to create to nail the spots. You know what I mean? Yeah. So for in Sabah, I strongly encourage anyone who's thinking of doing F&B in Sabah, you should definitely cautiously consider KK. But we would love to have you. Like even in the business, we are an industry as a whole, right? We need to grow the industry, and whoever's interested, we really welcome you. Yeah.
Prior to this interview, we've met once to talk about, to hear more about your story. And I really liked what you said about entrepreneurs in Sabah. You spoke about how everyone in Sabah wants to become an entrepreneur and no one
Yes.
really wants to work So you guys like manpower and all, it was kind of like a
Yeah,
challenge.
yeah, good point. Yeah, so yeah, because of that, I think most people in Sabah, right, if they do come back as a professional, um, there's two things. I think they are people who work as professional because of family and whatnot. Um, but there's a big group of people that, given a choice to, if they come back by choice, right? Most of them will come back with an entrepreneurial mindset. Okay, I'm going to come to Sabah and I'm going to start this thing. And because of that, we have a lot of young businessmen and businesswomen, which I'm definitely in favor for, right? And yeah, so most people that previously were in a different city and they choose to come back, that definitely is, I won't say 100%, I'll say maybe a good portion of 80-90%, right? If they do come back from the city, either a family business they're helping up, or they will, create some sort of small business for themselves. And I think it's very healthy. And it's something that's very unique, where, the community in Sabah is quite entrepreneur. Like, we have a lot of people, big and small. I have like, I also have like staff that in a good way left us, whether it's in the restaurant business or whatnot, they left us, hey, I'm going to start my clothing company. I was like, oh man, this is awesome. Definitely behind you, and all that. And anyone can be a businessman. You know what I mean? And it's not like in a city, right? Like, I was talking to some friends in, was like, oh, I want to start a business, but I need to secure that funding and something. I was like, no, like, you just start a business, just start it. Like, there is a small way of doing business with limited finances, right? If you don't have a big financial backing, it doesn't mean that that's the end of the road. Because Sabah is a good testimony. Like, people just do business without anything, and a lot of them has done a great job. Yeah, so that's kind of like the entrepreneur kind of like community that we have in Sabah.
What are some beliefs you hold on to when doing business or just life in general?
I think personally, it's probably a personal thing. Like, I cannot sit still, right? So not physically. I'm not saying physically. I mean physically too. Like, I'm a very outgoing person,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Physically, but if the business is mundane and it has no room of progression, I usually like talk people out of it. Like, if you were to do a business and it's very mundane and routine and there's no sense of growth opportunity, although the money is good, it may not be worth your while in the long run. Um, so, but most business have growth avenue. It's a matter of whether you can capture it or not, or whether you are aware of it, right? So so definitely in F&B, that's why I'm quite excited for the industry. I think F&B is such, like growth is kind of like a necessity in
Yeah.
F&B, right? If you
Yeah.
don't grow,
Growth is a
you're
necessity
going
in
backwards.
life.
It's very simple.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't grow, it's like COVID, right? Like, cases that disappear, right? Are people that kind of like they either don't have the know-how to evolve, or they don't have the finances to evolve, right? But if you stay stagnant, unless you have like unlimited funding, that's a different story. But for most businesses, if you don't bend, you break. You know what I mean? So yeah, so I think for me is, when I look at new business opportunities, when I look at new projects, when I look at new industry to consider, or even cities to expand. Like, lately, I've been talking to my team on like expanding beyond Kiki and all that. Like, this is a big factor. Like, if we go into this city, what's our upside growth potential, not in terms of finances, but in terms of the company as a whole, in terms of the know-how. Are we learning new things as growth? Growing can be a lot of aspect, right? Can be not financial is just one small part. But are we growing as a team by being here, by working with this person, by venturing into this business or this industry? I think that's definitely important for me. Yeah.
Any advice for people who are looking to start their own business?
Okay. The best easiest way to make money from F&B. I talk about F&B only, right?
Yeah.
The easiest way to make money from F&B is to not do it. I mean, jokes aside, jokes aside. And it's kind of true. Like, people think like F&B is like bragging rights or it's like easy money. It's not. Like, I mean, I'm sure you have heard it before. F&B is definitely not, and it really is. It really isn't. If you're in F&B money, you're in the wrong business, 100%. Right? If you're in F&B for money, you're definitely in the wrong business. But obviously, there's the concepts of franchising, right? So franchising, arguably not F&B business. Franchising is like a supply chain business. If you really look at it, if you really look at how franchises work, what is McDonald's and all this, it is a kind of like a supply chain business rather than F&B business. In general, I would say that I think you still need a general advice for people going to business, not just F&B. And if you're doing this so-called business as like a main business, right? I would say that never go into a business for financial means of a financial reason based on passion. I'm not sure whether that makes any sense.
Wow. So you mean like if you're passionate about something and you try to make money out of it, don't? But I thought a lot of businesses are start like this. I love food. I'm passionate about food. Let me start a restaurant, and then I become like the next Shake Shack,
No. So if you like food, like this is my secret to you. Find a job that earns you a lot of money and then use that money to enjoy food, right? So that's the best way.
That's what you're doing now.
Don't start a restaurant because you like food. That's like the worst advice anyone would give, right? If you love food, find a good paying job, pays you well, whatever.
Enjoy the
business,
food.
like
go and eat out.
What's a cool job now? Like tech company, go work for Tesla or whatever, and or work for like investment bank and use that money to enjoy food. Yeah, seriously, like that's probably like a better advice. But I guess it's the same like any other business, right? Passion and I'm not sure what's the correct way to phrase it. I think passion can sometimes blur your kind of like critical business decision. Like if you need to make a decision, right, and you're driven by passion, sometimes passion can blur the lines of like what a good business decision should be. Like my chicken rice shop is a great example. I love eating chicken rice, right? So if my decision is like by hook or by crook, let's find a way to salvage it because I love eating this chicken rice. That would be like the worst decision because we'll be making loss every year until now, right? So you need a sound mind, all right? You need when you run a business, you need a very sound mind, and whatever that blurs the thinking process for you to have a sound mind, you need to take that away. So passion sometimes can be that. Family is another one. Sometimes family can be that blurred line. You make a decision business-wise because your family is in the equation. Some people don't have the choice. Some people, because of family, they must make a business decision, right? That's a different context. But if you have the freedom to really decide, you have to take some of these factors away because this is very it can be you'll blur your decision process. Yeah. So I guess my advice is just make sure that a passion is passion. If you have a passion project, know that it's a passion project and it's not your sole breadwinner. It's not your main income. It's like your toy or your hobby or a side project. It may come up to be a very big business. You never know. But entering into it, last illustration, I think this is a good one. Like, okay, if I enter into the F&B business, right, and I quit my job, my day job, my family job, right, and I was like, okay, family, I'm done. You guys do you, I do me. Definitely, we will not be where we are today, because you know what I mean. That kind of like family backing, whether it's financially or whatnot, give you the extra confidence to take certain risks and give you the confidence to think soundly. But if all your money is in the pot, right, and you have you win or die, kind of like this business or this decision, that would definitely cloud your decision, because you're thinking on money. You're thinking like, okay, this, I must do this or else we run out of money, kind of thing. And if it's a real, like, you're relying on this business, you don't want to have that scenario, because you're not necessarily making the best decision. You're making the financial decision for that given point of time, right? But it may not be the best decision for the company in the long term. Long story short, if it's a passion project, know that it's a passion project, and that will clear your head to make a better decision. Yeah.
Roy, really thank you so much for your time today. I couldn't think of a better guest to end season 3. You're so down to earth. When
My
we
pleasure.
met, I really, when you speak, I really gravitate towards you. And thank you so much for sharing your insights today. I think there's some sound advice, but very scary one as well. Like, you are passionate, but don't try to make money out of this passion. Go find a job. But I think these are all very, like, practical like advice. Again, thank you so much. I'm so happy you are here with us today.
Pleasure. Thank you so much.
You have just listened to Foodie Canteen. This show is produced by me, your host Castle Lim, and co-written by Sulin Chung. Foodie Canteen podcast is made possible by the amazing team at Good Foodie Media. Check us out on Instagram and YouTube at Foodie Canteen for more. Follow us for brand new episodes every Friday. See you next week.